If we were to ask, what is the church? Many people will say it's a place of worship, like a temple, a mosque, or a synagogue, but specifically for the Christian faith. Most will say it's a specific building in town, with a high steeple visible for miles around, old-style architecture, and a stained glass window. Some will say it's the leading administrative body of the Christian faith, or a set of teachings and customs typical of Christianity. But these common definitions don't reach the essence of what the church is, or what it means to be a part of it. This is what we're going to look at in this video. Most stereotypical churches have the characteristic steeples, bell towers, vestry, and stained glass windows, making it just as much a landmark as a destination. The Anglican, Catholic, and Orthodox buildings are renowned for such structures, and the local church body is often based in cathedrals, minsters, or abbeys. Some towns or boroughs are even named after the local church's patron saint, or the fact that it has an abbey or minster, including Westminster, Waltham Abbey, St Asaph, and St Austell. Many of us grew up with the old hand rhyme, "Here is the church, here is the steeple, open the door, there are the people." This shows the image of the church is ingrained in our lives, that we can't think of the building in any other way. In history, it was the centre of town, the heart of the community, and the place you meet for the three important events in a person's life: their baptism, their wedding, and eventually their funeral. Not every church meets in such ecclesiastical settings, however. Some meet in buildings that blend in with the surrounding city, like a community centre, a hotel conference room, a theatre, or warehouse. Some set up tents or gazebos to perform the services in. Some just have a stretch of land lent to them for the purpose, be it a field or a patch of woodland. But their lack of Christian architecture doesn't stop them identifying as Christians. This doesn't get ruled out by the Bible. The tabernacle being a tent with an altar in it, and Christ himself preaching from boats on the shore, on mountainsides, or in people's homes. Just because we're used to the church being a set building doesn't mean it's the building itself. So what else is there that could be named as the church? When prefixed with words like people, music, or teachings, we end up with a set group of people or tribe that stand out from the crowd for various reasons, including habits, worldviews, attitudes, and tastes in music. Church music is often thought of as classical choral numbers, praising God and quoting Bible verses, accompanied by an organ or sung in plainsong. Church teachings are given as a set series of rules that one has to follow in order to go to heaven and avoid hell. Many churchgoers are of the unshakable opinion that God is the creator of all things, and to follow him is the way, and all should turn to him for salvation. Many Christian schools have prayers before meals, class, or assembly, and teach Bible scripture as a core subject, like maths or English. The issue here is to lump all of these people into one mould is like putting water, olive oil, whiskey, and honey in the same pot. The reasoning? That they are all liquids. There's so much variation in the church that one could walk into a place of worship expecting one thing and walk out again completely baffled because they don't recognize any of it. I know the feeling, having done that in many churches before. Many famous composers of church music had their name on secular works. John Rutter, Ludwig van Beethoven, Bach, Wagner Williams, and Mozart are among that number. The term church music doesn't even cover all worship music, with gospel choirs and contemporary bands singing God's praises across the world. Bands such as Wren Collective, Bethel Music, Soul Survivor, and the Hillsong groups bringing songs of plenty to the earthly stage, along with individuals like Beth Croft, Brenton Brown, Matt Redman, Chris Tomlin, and Stuart Townsend. Church teachings vary wildly between denominations, many declaring the others to be false in their ways. Some open their doors to all, others are closed groups. Some just help the local community, some organize missionary groups across the world. Some organize huge events that reach across the nation. Some focus on the village fete or the annual choral expeditionary holiday. Some have the seemingly one-man band of the minister doing all the work. Others have a whole host of roles open to the congregation, like church coffee, Bible readers, director of music, youth and children's church, church wardens, and projectionists. Some allow views of all sorts. Others have very strict guidelines on what is heretical. Naming the governing body as the church only helps distinguish it from other authorities that don't involve the happenings within the church building beyond the parishioners' welfare. This could make it easier to mark the chain of command should complaints be hushed up by the lower echelon. But once again, we hit the problems of the individual not being the collective, since one branch of the church doesn't represent the others, and societal integration, with many small villages having the vicar and the local MP as members of the parish council. Added to the fact that every denomination has its own governing head, the C of E being Canterbury and the Palace, and the Catholics having the Vatican. It's hard to nail down the head of the church without asking the church itself for an audience with the man upstairs, or getting the local non-godly authorities involved. In short, we've highlighted the lack of consistency when it comes to defining the church as either a building, location, teachings, or authoritarian body. With this in mind, I'm going to suggest that the church is neither of those things. During my travels, I've been to a number of churches of different sizes, denominations, worship styles, beliefs, venues, and community connections. To make it easier for me, I had a small list of requirements for going to a church. It had to be in a good location, relatively close by to where I was staying or where I was working, so I wouldn't have to travel 100 miles or so to get there every Sunday. The time of the service had to be a sensible time. If it started at, say, 7 o'clock, and I worked from 9 till possibly 6 p.m, and had extra jobs to do in the evening, I would not be able to get up in time for the service. And of course, music, because I was raised with music in worship, and I find it very hard going to a church that doesn't have music. But one other factor played into my choice of churches as well. It was the people. This eventually superseded all of my other requirements for a church. The church could be next door to my hostel, had the best musicians in town playing, and start the service at 10:30. But if the people didn't welcome me in, or acknowledge I even stepped through their doors, I wouldn't stay any longer than it took to get a cup of tea after the service and get out of there. And that's assuming they even do church coffee. I've been to Baptist churches with views drastically different from my own, uniting churches with no music apart from recorded tunes and projected lyrics, and Anglican churches in the next village necessitating an hour-long cycle along mountain roads to arrive in time for the service. All because I felt welcomed by the people of the church, by both the ministers and the congregation. I've had lunch with ministers of denominations I do not approve of, debated controversial topics over dinner with Bible bashers, and nearly voiced opinions that could have had me chased out of town before I finished my cup of tea. And yet, I still see them as good people, because they reached out and opened their doors to a lone backpacker who wandered into their church one day because he wanted to get away from the hostel for a while and be with God. I believe the church isn't the building. It isn't the music, the customs, the teachings, or even the ceremonies. I believe the church is the people that make up the congregation and make it worthwhile going. As long as they open their doors to all people and welcome them, they are the church of God. As Christ himself said on the Mount of Olives, as it said in the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 40, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." The church is a gathering of Christians, and those who open the doors to all are themselves Christians. With all that in mind, I'll bring this video to a close with a request to churchgoers and churches with one goal in mind: no one worships alone. One can easily be amongst 1,000 people and still be alone. No one should have to be like that when worshipping God. Do not let anyone worship alone. So those of you who go to church on your own and never speak to anyone, next time, say hello to the person next to you. Ask their name. Have a conversation. Get to know them. You'll have a friend at church, hopefully. Same with church wardens, or a pastor, or anyone who works for their church. If you see anyone new, or someone who comes regularly but never seems to talk to anyone, talk to them. Make sure they feel welcome. Introduce them to a group who often go out for lunch after the service, or invite them to lunch yourself. If you want your church to grow, be a welcoming presence to all who walk through your doors. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos every week, and share with those who might be interested in joining it. Any suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments below, and give the videos a thumbs up if you can. I'm hoping to be on social media soon. I'll add links when I'm set up, and we can talk more online. Until then, keep your doors open, and God be with you.